Early in 2015, we saw the release of the aptly named building simulator City Skylines, developed by Finnish studio Colossal Order and published by Paradox Interactive. At first glance, City seems to be set as a direct competitor to genre heavyweight SimCity, but have Colossal Order laid a strong enough foundation to take on the champion? As you'd expect from a city building game, your overarching goal is to build and successfully maintain a thriving city. It plays almost identically to 2013 SimCity in that you pick an area that appeals to you, connect it to the outer world and begin constructing what will hopefully be a city envied by all. City Skylines has a lot of familiar features and even a few its competitor doesn't. One feature I particularly liked was being able to expand the area my city occupied if I wanted to maintain a single sprawling city, which I much preferred to SimCity's multiple, interconnected, but most importantly, smaller cities. While there was nothing inherently wrong with the Maxis approach, I found the idea of setting aside areas for greenery much more appealing than cramming infrastructure into every nook and cranny. Constructing your city feels good, and the only real complaints I have with the process is a lack of depth perception and that it can be a little difficult to see what you're building at night. Both issues can lead to the occasional misplaced road or building, which are minor gripes for all but the most hardcore perfectionist. Otherwise, it all feels pretty solid in terms of what's available, how scalable it is, and how it functions. Building should be as painless as possible, and Colossal Order have pulled that feat off particularly well. The ability to build roads over things is also a welcome feature, and it gives a sense of verticality that other titles can lack. Early on in my city construction career, I ran into an issue that sent my first city into a spiral of bankruptcy. Unsurprisingly, this issue could have been avoided if I'd taken the time to read descriptions. When it comes to roads, you have a list of available types, from your generic tarmac through to 6-lane highways with sound barriers. What I hadn't noticed was that the 2 arrows meant that it was a one-way road, which in hindsight is pretty obvious, but I took it to mean 2 lanes and built it literally everywhere. What I ended up with was a city where no one could access anything. Let this be a lesson to you if you play this game. Those descriptions are there to help you not make those mistakes. While we're on the subject of my mistakes, I'd also like to recommend that you do your public transport in stages. I did it rather late in my main city and added stops haphazardly, which led to a lot of routes that were unfinished. It's worth noting that there's no autocomplete feature for a round trip, so if you've made hundreds of stops and forget where it all started, you'll probably find yourself removing the entire trip and starting over. One feature I would have liked to see for roads is a larger variety of roundabouts, particularly smaller ones that we see around our cities. All I had access to were the interstate monstrosities that gobble up entire areas. City management seems to vary a lot, both in comparison to Colossal Order's older titles, as well as other genre entries like SimCity. On one hand, there's the massive undertaking of keeping all your zones and areas happy in a variety of areas like garbage, dead bodies, and fire trucks. On the other hand, there's a distinct lack of macro management. I'd like to see features enabling control over importing and exporting to fine-tune how things function, and the ability to expand buildings like colleges rather than having to spend a large chunk of city funds to build a second school for more people. They sound like minor issues, but it would really help manage smaller cities and areas. This apparent cutting back of management options makes the game more accessible to those who would rather build than manage, but I'd like to have seen more depth in this area, particularly when you realise that Colossal Order's previous title, Cities in Motion, is steeped in management minutiae like setting timetables for public transport. A better approach might have been to have those features as an optional toggle, so I could feel like there's more of a challenge in running my city, rather than my current approach, which is just to sprawl out further so I have something new to do. While Skylines' aesthetic is not an original one, it is unique in how well they've pulled the look off and have really made it their own. The game uses a depth of field similar to a tilt-shift lens, which gives the whole thing the appearance of a model town, and I haven't really gotten tired of looking at it yet. While the models aren't over-the-top polygonal masterpieces, they do fit perfectly in their surrounds, and give what I assume is the exact feel the developers wanted. It's clean and it runs well. I couldn't really ask for more. In a giant middle finger gesture to EA, whether intentional or not, Cities includes workshop support and boasts a robust community who are constantly adding new content, for free. I've discovered that pretty much any issue I've had with the game so far can be resolved by downloading workshop content. For instance, the issues I had with public transport can be completely negated with the Auto Line Color mod, which automatically picks colours and names for bus, metro and train lines. Or I could add the Traffic++ mod to to add more complexity to roads by zoning lanes for certain kinds of traffic or speed limits, and even pedestrianising other roads to cause the traffic to move at a more sedate pace. There's also plenty of scenic or proof of concept mods. If you're a GTA fan, you'll want to check out the Los Santos mod, which is a pretty accurate reproduction of the city. Or if you're a masochist with a yen for some beautiful scenery, you'll want to check out the Norway map, which has a name I'm not even going to attempt to butcher. It's super pretty, but also super hard to manage. The community is very active, and there's obviously a lot of love for this game. For the serial tinkerers, there's going to be oodles of playtime spent just checking out what fellow gamers have managed to create. It's great stuff. If you've never jumped on the SimCity bandwagon because of the issues that plagued its release, or if you've already played it to death and you're looking for more, Cities Skylines is a very strong contender for the contents of your wallet. The game looks great, plays really well, and aside from some minor gripes I have with the feature list, which are easily alleviated by the addition of Steam Workshop support, I'm finding it really difficult to put down.